We were in the Holy Land, and God spoke to Marcus about getting involved in Christian television. We moved to Montgomery, Alabama. Where do you go to school to learn how to build a Christian television station? Like, you don't know how to do that. And so we did. It was the first Christian television station in the history of the state of Alabama, okay? We were there, and we got it on the air, but it reached like 50 people. So we were in Montgomery for 7 years, and there was no abundance. I didn't get paid, ever. And I was just honored to be able to do that. But we eventually did get on a 1,000-foot tower, but yeah, we always knew that wasn't our final destination. So then,
welcome to our conversation today on Through the Storm. As we walk through this, I want you to feel free to call the number on your screen if you need prayer for any storm that you are facing, be it financial, relationships, having a prodigal, or your health. Well, my guest today is my amazing wife, and she is also a multi-award winner, a songwriter with over 20 albums to her credit, best-selling author, speaker, and she inspires so many others, and she's the president of Daystar Television Network, so she is familiar to you. She knows quite a bit about storms. Welcome, Joanie Lamb.
thank you.
Well, it's so good to have you.
Thank you for that
here.
introduction. That was amazing.
Well,
Could
good,
you just
baby.
travel with me and do that, give that introduction?
I would do that. I would do that for you. Well, Joni, you have many years of ministry experience. What made you kind of tackle this particular topic?
You know, after Marcus graduated to heaven, I cannot tell you how many emails I got where people were saying, you know, well, we've been watching you. We watched you go through this, and hey, you're showing up every day. You're continuing to do shows. You're continuing to sing and actually run Daystar. How are you doing this? And or this is inspiring me. Or I lost my husband. Or I lost my wife. And just people asking that question over and over again. How did you go through the grieving process? And you know, I actually talked to you about it because we were dating at the time, and you said you need to do something on this. You need to share some of this, and so I decided to do actually a video on it, and that was the first thing I did, and we got such a huge response from that. Then we decided, okay, well, I can talk about this particular storm, but there are definitely other storms that I went through and have gone through in 40 years of ministry. And so I just decided, you know what, let's do this. And again, you really encouraged me to that because you've written so many books. I'd only written one before that, so.
You're doing great, baby. But now in your book, and I did read it, and you know that you talk about that principle of really being able to hear the voice of the Lord. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that's been in your life?
Well, you know, it started early. You know, I can remember as a young girl, even my early days of ministry in my 20s, just learning to distinguish the different voices that you would hear. I mean, there's your voice, and, you know, and where you're thinking, okay, is that me? And you learn really by practice and having a personal relationship with God as to how he speaks to you, when he speaks to you. I remember it's kind of crazy when I first got in ministry, the Lord would ask me to do crazy things, like I'd go to get a glass out of the pantry and he'd say, no, get the other one. And I would, okay, you know, and you think, well, that's kind of crazy, but that's actually how he taught me to hear his voice and distinguish it from my voice or from the enemy's voice. You know, the enemy can speak to you too.
So hearing him in the little things can help you to hear him in the big things.
Oh, totally.
And if you can hear him and obey him with the little things, like, hey, give that person $10, or don't give that person money.
Or go this way.
Go this way and not that way.
Right, yeah. I mean, there are times he'd say, you know, I would have a pattern as to how he was like, no, I don't want you to go that way, this, you know. And just doing those little things to learn how to distinguish when he was speaking to me. Because it would be something that I wouldn't be thinking. And then later, of course, many years of ministry later, there would be a lot of big things I would need to hear his voice clearly on.
You and Marcus, you really labored for decades to build the largest Christian television network in the world. And I know even in the last couple of years, it's just been going gangbusters.
Yeah.
But you've gone through, I mean, you guys have a lot of scars. What's a storm or two that you can share that's kind of like, yeah, Because people looking, oh, I want to be Joanie Lamb. No, you don't. It was really painful to be Joanie Lamb. Okay.
Yeah.
What is a storm or two? Just building all this, what was a storm or two that came up?
Well, I mean, just, you know, the Bible says despise not small beginnings. And so we had a very small beginning. And 1983, I tell about this in the book, we were in the Holy Land and God spoke to Marcus about getting involved in Christian television. We moved to Montgomery, Alabama. And where do you go to school to learn how to build a Christian television station? Like, you don't know how to do that. And so we did. And I tell some of those stories in the book of, you know, pioneering that. It was the first Christian television station in the history of the state of Alabama, okay? It was the state capital. You think about the history of Montgomery, Alabama. You know, our nation was divided, the Civil War and all that. Martin Luther King had a church there. And so we were there and we got it on the air. But I just talk about some of the early storms of just being on a short tower, a 300-foot tower in television. Everybody knows you want to be on a tall tower because you want that signal to go out, you know. And we're in a small market to start with, so we're on a 300-foot tower. We reach like 50 people, I don't know.
What happened when you moved to Dallas? Because you went from Montgomery to Dallas. Those are big differences.
Yeah, well, that I was going to say. So we were in Montgomery for 7 years, and there was no abundance. I didn't get paid ever. And I hosted a show with Marcus 2 hours every night live. And I was just honored to be able to do that. But we eventually did get on a 1,000-foot tower. But yeah, we always knew that wasn't our final destination. So then we moved to Dallas, and I tell that story in the book. We had a deal with a lady there in Montgomery, and it fell through. And we ended up selling the station for what we had in it and financing it. So we came to Dallas with nothing. It's like we were there for 7 years and then we started with nothing. We could have sold it to an ABC affiliate and made money, but the Lord said, if you keep it Christian, I'll make it up to you when you get to Dallas. So we were just thinking, okay, we're a top 10 market. We're going to do this again. And we thought we would be done. That would be it. We'd build channel 29 here in Dallas, Texas. And we did do that.